Well, hello, Joe.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz, indeed. And here we are doing an impromptu interview about your wonderful new book.
Yes.
But before we get into that,
Mm-hmm.
would you like to tell me and our audience about yourself?
Well, I've always kind of had a creative bent and always wanted to be involved in arts and performing arts and things. So when I was in the Army, age 21, I went out for a play. And this is the first time I ever did theater. And first time I had a speaking part. And when I walked out on stage, I was terrified. I couldn't believe they sold tickets. And there I was. But I got over it, and I pursued acting in community theater when I got back home. And I did that for a number of years. I also studied acting in New York at Herbert Berghoff Studios. And it was just a wonderful time, a really creative time. And I got to do a couple of off-Broadway shows. But doing plays was difficult. I started to write plays, and that was fun. Wrote plays for children for a while, and we would produce them at the local community theater. The parents loved it because they didn't have to pay for daycare. I would take the kids, and then they had a good time, and it was a really wonderful experience. And then I started to write plays for adults, and a couple of my plays were done in festivals, but it became difficult to do plays.
And why was that?
Well, because, with a play, you kind of have to be there. The playwright needs to be part of the process. So you have a director, you have actors, and you have the playwright. And as the rehearsal period goes on, the playwright, he
becomes less and less important.
Yes, but the playwright has the final say on everything.
Yes.
And so what you have is sort of competing views. But the point is that you can all work it out if you're there. I was never there for any of the rehearsals. And when I saw this particular play that was staged at a festival, I almost ran out of the theater. In fact, I did run out of the theater because it just wasn't my vision. And that's when I switched to writing fiction, because I was working at the time and I really couldn't be at rehearsals when plays were being done. And I couldn't be part of that process. But when you're writing fiction, it's sort of right in front of you and you have the control of it. And when you're done with it, it's your vision.
Well, when you say writing fiction, I don't believe you mean novels. You mean short stories.
Short stories,
right.
Yeah, that's been my genre primarily.
Yes,
and I've done that over the last few years. My collection has 14 stories, 11 of which have been published online and in anthologies, and a couple of them have placed in contests. So I feel it's my best work to date.
I think you're being quite modest, because when you say placed in competitions,
Uh-huh.
they have won.
Yes, a couple I have won. Yes, one was the National Federation of Press Women. I won the local contest, New Mexico Press Women, in my short story, which was The Secret of the Smiling Rock Man, which is the name of my collection. Then won first place in the national contest.
Perhaps you'd like to hold up the books.
Is this? Yeah, I'll show it. My face over there. It's called The Secret of the Smiling Rock Man. It's got 14 stories. And it features characters that I say have rocks in their heads, all striving to find out things and discover things that you really can't discover, but they press on no matter what. So.
Well, I understand a few of your stories are about this very village.
Yes, yes. The Secret of the Smiling Rock Man. It was sort of like a thread here. I heard an artist speak about thread, Judy Tuwelitz-Tiwa, I think, who is from here. And Judy was on Radio Free Galisteo talking about string in our art and how it was a connection. And I sort of I use it as a metaphor for making connections. Like I wanted to write a story about mortality, but I didn't have a place, I didn't have characters. And this all came together when I listened to her talk about making connections. All of a sudden, I was reading a book by Lucy Lepard from here about Galisteo, our village. I said, my goodness, I have a place. All right, now I needed characters. And she was talking about some of the difficulties and unfairness that the village, and of course, the territories taken over by the U.S. from Mexico faced. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo of 1848, how it was kind of supposed to protect property rights and protect individuals who were here before the Anglos came, the Americans came. And of course, that was kind of ignored. So it gave me an idea for characters, but I didn't want them to be villains necessarily. But I wanted them to be people who were maybe lost.
And do you think people in this village will identify with any of them?
With any of the characters?
Yes.
Well, let's see. We have one from the East Coast, who's accused of being in the witness protection program, although he's not. And another gentleman from the West Coast who was a former surfer. And he's teaching surfing in the Galisteo Creek, which is a little wacko. But it was just so much fun. But it's making these connections as I went along. And the final piece of it was my good neighbor, Sam Sloan, who took me to see Pueblo Blanco, which isn't far from here. I had a friend from New York visiting, and I mentioned it to him, and he said that he would be happy to take us out there. That's where I saw the petroglyphs.
Yes, I was just going to ask you to explain a bit more
Mm-hmm.
for the viewers what Pueblo Blanco is.
Yes, it's the ruins of a pueblo, and then there's a ridge that sort of runs alongside of it, and there are these rocks where the native folks carved petroglyphs, and it's a whole area of it's like a history book for them.
It is.
And it was very moving and very impressive. And then when I was looking through the photographs, I came across a figure, and I said, "Oh my goodness, the Rock Man. That's the man I'm going to put in my story. He's going to have the secret of mortality."
Oh, that's great.
Ooh.
Do you remember on that rock face,
Yeah.
there is a plumed serpent?
Yes.
That's about 20 foot long.
A long serpent, yes, indeed. I do
yes.
recall that. It's
very
impressive.
interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's very exciting about your book, and congratulations. And maybe you'd like to read us certainly some titles or a little bit, give us a sample.
Well, for the secret of the Smiling Rockman, it all begins with 4 angles. One of them dies suddenly. And the main character, Win, is now obsessed by this. He wants to know the secret. You know, he wants to know, what is this about? What's my life about? And he's looking at his friends and saying, you know, you don't really belong here. So here's a scene where they're all together. And Win is talking to Johnny and Moon. These are his 2 friends. And they're kind of kibitzing around. Here's what happens. Win sat with his friends the following Sunday afternoon at the station bar, a room that was once the baggage area for the old Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad. Moon and Johnny kibitzed with each other, assuming Lanford's role of commenting on every woman who walked into the bar. "She's beautiful," remarked Moon, as a girl dressed in jeans and cowboy boots passed by, her long blonde hair reaching to the middle of her back from under her cowboy hat. "She wouldn't look at you twice," said Johnny, chewing on the end of an unlit cigar close to his lip. "She only has to look once," said Moon. He slammed the table with his fist as he and Johnny broke into a fit of laughter. Win shook his head. "Pathetic," he said. "You guys are pathetic." "Come on, Win, lighten up," said Johnny, removing the cigar from his mouth and taking a sip of his beer. "You're not still bummed out about Lanford and that whole death thing." "Death thing? Is that what you call it?" Win shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Look at us, 3 grown men spending a Sunday at the local watering hole, ogling girls and stealing peanuts from the other tables." Win pointed at Johnny. "Don't think I didn't see you do that." "We're just having fun." Moon slumped back in his chair as he raised his mug to a woman passing by the table. "Having fun? Is that what we're doing? I mean, look at us. What do we really know about each other? Johnny, you showed up here out of nowhere a few months ago, no job, yet you rent a nice house on top of the hill in the village. What's your story?" "Simple, he's in the witness protection program," laughed Moon. "I am not." Johnny clenched his cigar between his teeth. "You talk too much, Win." Win's voice softened. "You got a wife, kids, Johnny. I saw the photo in your living room." Johnny removed a fresh cigar from his pocket. He fumbled with the wrapper as he spoke. So what? A guy can't have trouble maybe once in a while? Maybe certain people pressured him? Maybe his wife don't understand? Maybe he just needs some space? "Space is okay, Johnny, but after a while you got to find a way to fill it." Win turned to look at Moon. "Hey, don't start in on me," said Moon, raising his hands in front of him and pulling up his blonde ponytail. "I'm happy teaching surfing in the desert." Win took out his phone and after fingering it a few seconds, held it up to Moon. "Read the headline about you." He turned the phone back toward him. "I'll read it for you. Surfer's injuries heal, but fear keeps him on the shore." Win shoved the phone in his pocket and jumped up, tipping over his chair and causing it to crash loudly on the floor as he exited the bar.
Leaves us in suspense.
Those 2 guys, and Win has his story too. of where he's
Oh.
supposed to be.
So I think you better find this book and discover the rest. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Liz.
Great fun.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk with you. Bye.
Bye.